Welcome to FineScale Modeler Weekly. Let's kick off this episode with an all-new Chariot from Lost in Space.
This comes from the original 1960s TV show created by Irwin Allen,
which was, and remains, goofy, campy fun.
This kit is in 1/35th scale, so it matches the Mobius Jupiter 2, so you can use them together in a diorama.
Diorama. The hull comprises a belly with separate running gear housing, along with the nose and rear end. The running gear includes the road wheels molded with the tracks. The upper glass is a single part with sharply defined frames.
Inside, the floor incorporates dash and console details, seats, curtains, the scanner, blaster rifles, and driving John Robinson round out the interior.
Up top, there's a rack for cargo, an antenna, and observation dome. Also provided in clear plastic is Robot B9 and a standing Will Robinson.
Typical of Arma Hobby's other releases, the kit includes a double-sided backdrop that can place the Chariot on one of two different planets.
This is a good-looking kit of the Chariot, and it should be nice either as a standalone or with the Jupiter 2. So Kendra, have you had a chance to watch any of the TV series?
I have not. I am a fan of some 50s and 60s music and TV shows and movies, but I haven't gotten around to seeing this one.
Oh, you should, because it's something. Next from Tamiya, we have a kit that was first released in 1977 and again in 1999 as a motorized kit, and now it's back again, a 1/20th scale Porsche 935.
This time it's back without the motor to be built strictly as a static model.
The markings here are for two cars driven by the Martini racing team at the 1976 World Championship for Makes.
The body is a single part with open vents and sharp door outlines. The engine cover with the iconic spoiler is separate, revealing a pretty complete replica of the horizontally opposed six-cylinder engine with transmission, belts, fan, exhaust, and turbo intercooler. It and the rear suspension fit into a frame, which in turn slips into the lower body with the front suspension. Vinyl racing slicks fit over chrome front and black rear wheels with separate covers.
The upper side of the lower body has the interior floor with door inserts, driver's seat and pedals, dash, roll cage, and steering wheel. A driver is included. Clear plastic supplies the windshield and backlight, side windows, and light lenses and covers.
Cartograph decals provide the Martini stripes, logos, and tiles, optional car numbers, dials for the instrument cluster, and sponsor stickers.
Tamiya has also released the 935 in 1/12th and 1/24th scale.
Something especially cool about this kit is that it matches a lot of the company's other Formula One cars, so you can compare the types.
And you can start a collection or add to your current collection of race cars all on the same scale. Let's take a look at 4 recent releases from Detail and Scale books.
Starting with volume 14 of the Detail and Scale series covering the fabulous F-14 Tomcat.
Author Haagen Klaus opens the 102-page softcover with the big Navy swing wing fighter's origins and development, and a quick survey of its operational and combat history, as well as the variants. Then it gets into the meat of what makes Detail and Scale books such great references, pages and pages of detailed walk-around photos. It closes, as all of this series does, with the Modeler section, a survey of the available Tomcats, which ones are good, and the issues with each.
Also in the Detail and Scale series is volume 15, all about the F-105 Thunderchief. Like the previous book, author Bert Kinzey opens with a history of the Thud and covers the variants, including illustrations detailing unique differences. There is an extended section about the armament that the F-105 could carry, followed by the typical Detail and Scale walk-around photos, and the survey of available kits in the Modeler section.
We have Volume 6 in the Color and Marking series, the A6 Intruder in U.S. Navy Attack Squadron service. The 128-page softcover details the 3 camouflage patterns typically used on A6s in Navy service, including 3-view drawings and FS numbers. The bulk of the book details the 20 Navy attack squadrons that operated the Intruder with photos and color profiles of markings through the years.
The final book, F-117 Nighthawk Stealth Fighter and Illustrated Development History, is a little different. As stated in the introduction by authors Yancy and Tony Landis, it is basically a reprint of a long out-of-print photo scrapbook on the F-117, published by Specialty Press in 2006. The first 17 pages of the 114-page softcover details the pioneering aircraft's development, but most of the volume is photos of the plane in testing and service and combat.
Detail and scale books are among the best references and pretty much indispensable if you're building a model.
As a new modeler, I'll definitely have to check these out when I start to build planes.
Absolutely.
Finally, here's the latest release from Arma Hobby, a version of its beautiful little 1/72nd scale Key 84 Hayate.
You can find our video preview of that initial kit, as well as Mike Klessig's workbench review, at the links in the description.
This boxing is labeled as aircraft from the Special Attack Units.
Now, these were the kamikaze units within the Japanese armed forces. As I understand it, the Hayate was initially used to escort kamikaze attackers at Okinawa.
As the Japanese situation grew more and more desperate, the Key 84s were used for suicide strikes.
The plastic in the kit is the same as the initial release, with the same terrific surface detail as we've seen in other Arma kits.
New here are the beautifully printed decals with markings for 3 aircraft, one with a long fuselage stripe from the 57 Shimbutai, another with a skull and crossbones from the 58th Shimbutai, and an aircraft from the 195th Shimbutai.
This is another great-looking release from Arma.
Look for reviews of the Porsche and Chariot on FineScale.com.
The place to go for hundreds of other reviews, videos, galleries, and much, much more.
And don't forget that Great Scale Modeling 2023 is out now. Get your copy at KalmbachHobbyStore.com today and be inspired.
FineScale Modeler Weekly, brought to you by Hobby Zone USA, your source for hobby storage solutions, hard-to-find hobby tools, and aftermarket modeling needs. And by Cult TV Man's Hobby Shop, the place to go for science fiction and fantasy kits, details, masks, decals, and more.
Sometimes you just have to strip the chrome off of a plastic part from your model kit. How do you do that? Well, a tried and true way of achieving that goal is Liquid Plumr. Now, this Liquid Plumr is like clog-destroying gel. It means it's got little icebergs of clog-destroying gel. You can just forget about all that stuff. First things first, Liquid Plumr, it can be dangerous as hell, right? It will not do good things to your hands. It's bad for your eyes. You do not want to ingest it. So, eye protection, gloves, and pour slowly into a vessel like a ceramic or glass bowl. Now, right here, we've got a chrome part. This is the front end of a van. It's got the headlights. And all you need to do is just go ahead and slowly put the part into the Liquid Plumr. Make sure that the part is as submerged as you can get it. All right, and Liquid Plumr has, a consistency to it, right? It's not just like water. It's a little oily. So make sure you get it down in there. And then I have another part, which is a side pipe exhaust from the same kit. I'm just gonna go ahead and put that right into the bath as well. Get that down in there and let it do its thing. Now, what you're gonna see in about 10 to 15 minutes is that the chrome is going to go ahead and lift away from that plastic. So we'll just go ahead and let this sit here and wait it out. So as you can see, the chrome has disappeared off of the plastic, leaving, well, what appears to be black plastic underneath. So you are definitely going to want to rinse these parts well. Now, for our purposes here, I've got a dish of warm water where I can just take this exhaust pipe out, try and get off as much of the goop as possible. Take it and put it over in here for the time being. And then do the same thing here, the front end of the van. Again, try and get as much of the goop off as possible. Remember I said the Liquid Plumr has a consistency, it's gel, right? Slimy. Anyway, get that off, go over here. Now, even though I'm just rinsing it over in this other dish with water, what I would recommend that you do, if you do something like this at the workbench, go ahead and go to a sink, and before you do any painting or using these parts in your model, go ahead and rinse them and probably use some liquid dish soap to clean them up really well. But I'm gonna take this and just put it over here. Move this here so we can get these parts out. All right, you can see right there that the plating is gone. And these parts are now ready. Well, they'll need to be dried first, right? They're ready to be primed, painted, and used on your model. So, as you can tell, Liquid Plumr can be a useful tool at the workbench. You can even take this and pour it back into the bottle and reuse it. A little bit is gonna go a long way for you. We get a lot of comments about what qualifies as modeling or scale modeling. Does this qualify? Does that qualify? Well, you know, recently we've got a couple of letters that we've received about sci-fi models and 3D printing in particular. Especially because we're seeing more and more of that in our print issues, right? 3D modeling, 3D printing. Right down here is Gundam. We had this Metaluna Mutant on the cover of an issue. So what is modeling? And I think what we need to do right here is pause everybody and just say, look, modeling is what you make of it, and be inclusive.
Right. If you're replicating something, whether it's a phantom or a mutant from a movie, you're replicating something that was real to you. And just as Phantom fans want to build Phantoms, fans of Star Wars want to build the stuff that they grew up with. That's, you know, you and I both built a lot of Star Wars stuff as kids, and that's part of why we're modelers now. Now we both build other things. You build World War I airplanes and ships or boats. Those wooden things that float.
Do not confuse ships and boats.
And
water conveyances in general are not just boats.
I know that.
Okay, all right.
And see, now we're gonna have we have a whole other episode devoted to this. But it's all modeling, and all these complaints about sci-fi stuff and pop culture stuff not being modeling sort of disregards the fact that back in the day when Aurora was getting started, some of their biggest selling kits were those Universal Monster figures, which are straight out of fantasy stuff.
That's exactly right. And you know, there some modelers want to sort of gatekeep, right, and say, well, figure modeling isn't really modeling because it's more concentrating on painting. And I'm like, just because there's a 600-piece model or a 7-piece model, you know, it's still a model. Right. And there's still a lot of skill that is required to put that model together and do it in such a way that, you know, where it's clean, it's well finished, where even if you aren't building it for contest, you're still proud of it, right? So I think we need to be careful when we go around and we sort of belittle, right? And I don't use that word lightly, but belittle somebody else's modeling endeavors. Mm-hmm. I think we need to stop that. I think we need to really look at it and go, yeah, that is modeling, and be open to everyone's pursuits, especially now with the 3D printing stuff coming on board. I mean, it's been around for a long time, right, guys? But it's now really taking off, and we're seeing not only are people at home doing it, but companies are now including 3D printed parts in their kits. And we had one reader who said that a reason for buying and building a model is for the fantastic created parts by the kit manufacturer. I am not going to do the job myself. And I think you had a point about that.
Yeah. Does that mean that if I scratch build something out of styrene and plaster or whatever else I'm using, is that not part of modeling because I'm not using a kit manufacturer's parts? I would say, let's think about what won IPMS Nationals last year. It was that scratch-built triplane
from Steve Husted.
From Steve Husted, yeah. I mean, if that's not modeling, I don't know what is.
Right.
I mean, that epitomizes modeling in so many ways because it's taking something and building something and creating something.
Exactly. And I think we can have a discussion, you know, about, well, what if you completely 3D print the biplane and all you're doing is then painting it? And I don't say that that's how I feel all you're doing, right? Because taking that and that figure and then finishing it, that takes skill. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where the lines are drawn, but I think what we need to do, though, ultimately, is celebrate the hobby and be, happy for all of the people who are being involved in it.
Right. It's celebrate it in all of its aspects.
Right.
I mean, if you're sitting down and putting something together, recreating something, you're a modeler, regardless of what the subject matter is.
I fully agree. Thank you all for watching FineScale Modeler Weekly. We'll see you next time.
See you next week. So we can screw something up and you get some outtakes? Is that what you're doing, Diane? Uh-huh. A not seated robot B9. He doesn't sit. Also provided in clear plastic. Clear plastic. Look, we're done with the first one already.
Followed by the typical detail and
Inconceivable.
a version of its beautiful little Kia 84 Hayate in one. Oh, sorry, I forgot the scale.
I was trying not to burp that entire time. This is another great looking release from Arma. This is another. Let's try this one more time.
Yeah, we can do it.
Like, you're always on the rails, right?
I've been railroaded a lot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.